Anytime we're ready.
Okay. Alrighty, thank you everyone for showing up today. We will start with the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Alrighty. First on the agenda is agenda approval.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda if there's no additions or corrections.
Thank you, Steve.
I'll second. Oh, go ahead, Tom.
I'll second.
Thank you, Tom. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Motion carries. Public input. Seeing as we have no public for input, we will pass that up here, close it. Consent agenda. Jennifer from DW Jones is here. So if, and I just had one or two questions. So if we want to pull the financials at this point.
Are you pulling 5B?
Yeah,
Okay.
and it's just, I just had a couple of questions. If I can find my.
I'll move to approve pulling 5B out.
I'll second.
Thank you, David. Thank you, Shar. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. So we'll go on to 5B right now then. So I can just ask my questions, if I can find them. On one of the reports, it had amounts payable to Hubbard County HRA. I'll see if I'm gonna be able to find them. Okay, yeah, so it would be on, under Cornerstone Apartments, it's under all of them. So it would be page 6 on the computer, but on the file, it's page 2. So it's page 6 of 52. And it's on other pages. Under other liabilities, it says due to Hubbard County HRA, $687,105.21.
I'm thinking that's a carry forward from other ones, it's probably been on there for a while, so I'll have to do some research to see where it came from.
Okay,
And things, I don't know if it's when we first set up the books, that it was something that Hubbard County HRA had funded something, so I will
Okay.
look into that.
okay, and it's,
I can respond to
okay,
that.
thank you.
So because of the way that the relationship between the enterprise fund and the general fund was set up over the life of, in Cornerstone, it's the most significant, but it is the amount that the HRA has contributed to the operations of Cornerstone over time. And then any time that for, in particular, Meadowview and Meadows Edge, if the HRA has provided resources to pay in particular property taxes, then those show up as a liability. Because it's an enterprise fund, there's an expectation that the general fund would be repaid from the resources that are eventually gotten at the apartment level.
Okay.
So it is due to the HRA general fund for resources that have been contributed to the operations of the enterprise fund.
Okay, thank you, guys. Because I noticed on page 17 of 52 for Meadowview Apartments, it's the same line item. No, I just lost it. Other liabilities due to Hubbard County, $164,752.02. And that's on other pages too, but those, like I say, just those couple of things that I had to, so when are we getting this money, was I was thinking.
Yes, exactly.
Alright.
No, it's, as the, operations of the apartments, turn, and so that there's a net profit at the end, then we would have some expectation that those resources could be paid back. So we don't ever wanna lose tracking them, so that we know that they're there.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
So that satisfies me for 5B. If anybody else has any questions for 5B? Alrighty, then I'll have to ask for approval for 5B on the consent agenda. I guess I'll make the motion to it, since I asked for it to be pulled. Somebody want to second me?
Sure.
Thank you, David. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Public hearing 11:30, we're not quite there yet.
We don't have to do a public hearing. It didn't, it inadvertently didn't get removed from
Oh, okay.
the agenda, but as long as we're talking about it, we would like to schedule a public hearing for the next meeting, which is September 15th. As you recall, last month you approved an RFP for the parcel that you have on 3rd Street. And the responses for those are due on the 21st. And the timeline would establish that we would have the public the selection of the RFP and then the public hearing for the actual sale. And we'd like to schedule that for September 15th, which is your next meeting at 11:30.
Alrighty. Make note of that.
And
Thank you.
we could also include at that same public hearing, offering for sale the parcels in Varden currently being platted for individual sale. I don't know that the plat will be complete at that point in time, but the RFP is, or not the RFP, the public hearing is your determination and the public's opportunity to speak as to whether or not selling those parcels is in best interest, because that's where they came from.
Okay,
So
so if we're ready then, we'll do that.
we'll actually do the public hearing for both at both times. My understanding is that the plat is going to be brought to the Planning Commission in September and to the County Board for approval in October. And then after that, we would actually do the RFP for sale or set the minimum price. We might set the minimum price in September. Well, we won't know for sure, but if we do the public hearing, then we will have cleared that hurdle and we can get on with actually selling the parcels after that. So we'll include both in the public hearing. Well, yes, we'll include both in the public hearing.
Yes.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve both.
Okay,
I'll second.
So the date would be the third Tuesday in September at 11:30 a.m.
okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Old business, that's no old business, so we're on to new business. Cost entry assistant request.
Excuse me, Mr. Chair, we do need to go back and approve the rest of the consent agenda.
We did that first.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we
just
Okay.
pulled the one.
Okay.
Yeah, we
The
covered it.
motion
and
was
then
to
we covered it.
approve with that poll. Yep.
Oh, okay, sorry.
It's okay. Alrighty, so cost, entry cost assistance request.
I received a request from a party who is looking at entry cost assistance. As I indicated in the packet, that if we did have all of the information, we could bring the request. I have not gotten all of the information. There's two parts to the application process right now. The first part is that the potential home buyer submits some information about their income status and the purchase agreement and parts of that. The second part requires that the lender confirm the first mortgage, financing, the appraisals, and all of those things. I have not gotten those back, so we will have to table or not bring up the request until I get that information. To make an assessment, because I don't have a recommendation one way or the other at this point.
Alrighty, so I guess I'll ask for a motion to table.
I'll make the motion.
Thank you, Steve.
I'll second.
Thank you, Tom. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Review of request for septic improvement assistance.
This is a little bit outside of what you would normally do. I did include a memo that was passed around to give you a little bit more information about the project. The homeowner has a parcel that has been approved for a low-income a septic upgrade grant from the environmental services option. Based on the quotes, there is still an additional $8,500 of costs that this household would need to contribute in order to make the process or program project work. There is a cooperating lender that does provide a companion loan, but this particular household was not eligible for that loan. So they really have no other source. Well, they didn't. When they came to see me, I did suggest that they apply to USDA. The combination of the age of the participant, applicant, and the income level would appear that they should qualify for a grant from USDA for the rehabilitation in connection with this. However, just because of timelines and when we would next meet again and trying to get the work done, I thought it might make sense for us, if you're so inclined, to either approve or deny so that the homeowner knows what their status is and whether or not they'd be able to get the work accomplished yet this year.
So Mary, I have a question. You said the taxable market value is $74,000, but the building value is $8,200.
Yes.
Is the building worth putting money into?
I have not seen the building itself. However, having a compliant septic system is probably in the best interest of the household. So whether or not a trailer house or whatever it happens to be, I'm not sure what the dwelling is. But having a compliant septic system is really just a good thing. So
Yeah.
I think that it makes sense to upgrade and get the system up to compliance.
So you would like a motion that if the household cannot secure funds through the USDA, that the HRA, EDA would fund it at 1% interest for 5 years?
Yes, that would be my recommendation.
And what happens if they default on payments?
We would put a lien, we'd have a lien on the property as part of the down payment assistance, and so if they did default, the estate would have to pay the HRA or the individual homeowner. There's no other mortgages on the property.
Yeah, I saw that, okay.
So we would be in a first position, so it would be fairly well protected.
What pool money do you propose to use?
We don't have any set aside rehab funding, we just pull it and allocate it from general fund into a loan and then track it as one of our existing loans.
Doesn't Environmental Services have funding for this?
Yeah, that's the first 12 grand.
That's the 60, and it must be 60%, I don't know exactly how the program works, but it looks like it's about 60% of the overall cost. Is what it calculates to be, so they've qualified for all that they can get from environmental services, and now it's the remainder.
And if you recall, Erica said that a lot of times this money goes unused, and so I do agree with Mary that having a septic system in compliance is actually good for the entire county.
Yep.
Is this system just the basic system, septic tank drain field? I mean, that's a lot of
There-
money.
There has to be, in this particular case, there is some additional electrical work that has to be taken care of.
So it must have a lift station.
Yeah, wiring of one new septic lift station, including wire connectors, septic pedestal breakers for complete installation. And then the bid includes, it's a new 3-bedroom septic, and a pump and lift station. And then if the line between the home and the house is, okay, then it would be a cost savings of $2,000. If it's not, then it's gonna be the price that's quoted here. So there is a potential that it could be less than the 8,500, or it'd be 60% and 40%, but there is a chance that it could be less than that, full 8,500.
Board's wishes?
I think the delineating factor here is that the Environmental Services has approved them for the other grant. Otherwise, I'd be nervous to set precedents of us doing this, but, you know, if we use Environmental Services as deeming it necessary with that grant program, then I think that's fine.
And as I said, I'm going to assist in any way that I can to make sure that they complete the application. I've had a conversation with USDA already, and based on just that conversation, they should be eligible. And if the household is a senior, then it's a grant as opposed to a loan. And so our due diligence is to try and do everything to help them get that funding first. But again, where do you, all of these rehab programs are sort of difficult, and I just think it's probably in the best interest overall. There's value in the land, and so having a working septic system just provides for future generations.
Yeah, you kind of get where I'm coming from, though. I mean, I wouldn't want people coming in to the HRA requesting loans because the bank declined them on a project, and then all of a sudden we're just stepping in to cover it. You know, there's got to be exceptional reason to it. So using the Environmental Services authorized a grant for this particular case is what I would use as my rationale for doing it.
What does the Environmental Service Office all, their conditions in granting that 12,000? I mean, what do they try to look at? I mean, they don't have an unlimited amount of money, so they gotta be careful about how they spread it out.
This is allocated, I believe, from the state, and it has all the criteria that this does not come out of levy dollars.
Right. Specific program.
Yeah.
Yeah, but their office gets a specific amount of money, though. That's what
Right,
I'm
it
talking
does.
about. So they gotta have some
Have a
restrictions on how they divvy it out.
Oh, yeah.
That's what I'm getting at.
I think Eric, when he's talked to us before, the major thing was income.
It's just the value of a building is, well, what else is he gonna need?
I know, but when listening to Mary talk, this is where they're living, where they're gonna live, whether it's compliant or not.
So did
You need a motion?
motion?
A motion to approve funding at the specifications Mary specified after trying to get USDA grant first?
Yeah.
With a lien attached to the property. if we-
Thank you, David. And a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Shar. Any further discussion?
Yeah, just wondering what are we using criteria as far as ability to repay anything? You know, if a lender is turning away the opportunity, why would we take on that burden, I guess?
What, I didn't speak to the lender, but what I did, was told is that there was a judgment on the file. When we ran a credit report, we could not find a judgment. So I can't say what, the reasoning for the denial was or what the judgment was. It didn't appear for us. So, if there would have been a judgment, then I would have had, a different expectation. I also have looked at what the household's, other debts are or payments are, and this will fit within, their capacity, albeit it's tough, but they've shown a, expectation that they could make this amount work.
I'm just looking at, from a financial aspect. The bank turned them down knowing that they had an approximately 60% down payment. That says a lot to me. I mean, maybe I think I need more information myself.
Well, I guess we're assuming that the bank knew they were getting the aid from environmental services. We don't know that.
And I didn't get permission to speak to I don't know what the lender was, but what I was told is that there was judgments or a judgment, one or the two, I don't know, because I ran a credit report as well, and there were no judgments that appeared. So based on that was what the indication was, is that they were denied the loan. I didn't ask for the denial letter, but they were denied the loan because there was judgments on the credit file. I did not find those. So I don't know, we use one credit reporting, maybe on the tri-merged it shows up, but a judgment should appear on every credit report, and it wasn't there. So that was my understanding of the basis for the denial, not related to the payment history.
I guess the way I look at it is, I feel that the HRA would be covered because of the market value of the property is $74,000. They don't have any mortgage on the property currently, and if we put a lien on it, and at some point I would hope that we would, either the applicant would pay back the loan, or at some point if the property's changed hands, we would get paid at that point.
Yeah, but the bank saw that too. Gave 74%, so $74,000 value on that. Personally, I just need more information on why the bank turned them down, I guess.
Now, the only other thing is too, a bank is subject to, they have examiners that come in, and if their loans don't meet a certain criteria, they get dinged pretty hard. And that's why you have bridge loan things and stuff for people from nonprofit entities or whatever to cover those things. The other perspective to look at, what would happen if we decline this? They must have a failing septic system right now. Where's that put the property owner on the property if we don't get this done?
Well, I don't know what the environmental services process is, but it is in the approval letter that the household received. It says, now that your application has been approved for funding, please complete the following steps to get the failing septic system properly abandoned and a new replacement septic system installed. So I don't know what that means from the household perspective or environmental services. And I don't know if they can require the household to move, or I just don't know. I don't know what happens.
I would assume if it's failing and can't be repaired or replaced, then you're gonna be forced off the property at some point in time,
Or you continually pump it, every time it gets full, you pump, so,
which will cost almost as much as the payment we're talking about,
I know that.
Well, it's more to pump a septic now.
without solving any problems.
Yeah.
And, we have said that we should have a little bit of a strategic planning session and talk about sort of the things that you do want to do and the things that you don't. It would help alleviate some of these weird, not that we wouldn't, but it would provide a little bit more direction. In the past, the HRA has provided rehabilitation loans. In the past, you have also provided down payment assistance loans. But we never really, we have the policies, but we've not said, yes, this is something that we truly want to fund or not. In this particular instance, I think that we are the lender of last resort. But they did not know about USDA's program until they came to me. So my hope is that they get the funding from USDA and we don't have to worry about it. But again, now that we're in the second half of August, time is clicking away, and so we don't have a lot of time until this is not going to be able to be managed this year.
Is this in a congested neighborhood, or?
No, it's,
Rural.
it's fairly rural. It's on Highway 71, about, I don't know, I suppose 10 miles north town. So it's
Just
in,
thinking that if it's a failing system, it could potentially, if it's not repaired or replaced, contaminate people's wells.
the parcel itself is 1.8 acres, and there are there's parcels of homeowners around there.
Good.
I didn't look how densely populated it was, but there are households around,
Yeah.
surrounding the area.
How does this fit into our mission statement?
I think we keep,
Keeps the house occupied.
homeowner, yeah, somebody in their home,
Yeah, that's what I think too.
yeah. And that's what's swaying me. Cause I've said that too, it's cheaper to rehab a home than to have to build new ones all the time.
So I'm also looking at, let's say they had to leave their home. So then they moved into one of our apartments. And I'm guessing they probably couldn't afford the rent. This is the cheaper alternative.
Well, if they were forced to move, then the sale of the property would fund them staying somewhere if they were to sell it.
That would
They
take time.
they can't sell it with a failing system.
Well, they'd have to upgrade the system or include it in their purchase agreement.
That's actually the basis of the funding for the ESO and for this is the public health concern. That's why the grant dollars are primarily made available, to mitigate persistent public health problem from a bad septic system.
So I'm still thinking about, my hubby is trying to ask a different question to get people to think so they can move forward in life. And to me, it might take a few years if they default on the loan, but we will get the money back. We're giving somebody an opportunity to live actually in compliance, never mind the health.
I mean, it's hard for us to wanna stick that kind of money into our own septic systems too. I can't imagine, when you've got income limits, sticking $20-some thousand into a subsurface sewage system, it's kind of a tough ask.
So if there's no further discussion, I'll call the vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Okay, so we pass 3-2. You know,
Then, Mary, can you give us a report at the next meeting?
Yes, I will.
Thank you.
thank you. Property management services.
When the new HRA EDA was established, you negotiated an agreement with DW Jones for property management services. That contract, the initial term of that agreement was through December 31st of 2026. And the contract wording says that it will automatically renew unless either party terminates the agreement. And there has been some discussion that you may want to have more in-depth discussions about the management and/or just the apartments in general. So this is really providing a notice that you intend to either do an RFP or some other method, and gives you the opportunity to sort of put everybody on notice that you want to look at alternatives prior to the renewal, or just letting it automatically renew. So that's what this would be, is that you're really just saying that you don't want the contract to automatically renew, that you want to have some additional conversation or due diligence about it.
Yes, thank you, Mary. And that's kind of what I felt it was, our responsibility to see if there's another option. I think DW Jones has done a fine job, but it's, like I say, it's just, a year from now would be too late. You know, even a month from now might be too late to work through this. So that's Mary and I talked briefly about it one day, and like I say, I think it's I feel it's a prudent thing to do as a board. I could show some examples where we changed management companies and it worked out well. And
Yeah, I would agree with Ted. I think, it's good to, obviously, we're not gonna manage it directly ourselves, but we could look at other competitive contracting options and see if there's anything more favorable or more fitting. I don't know, it's worth looking at. The other option is we could explore divesting.
good points.
I actually would like to explore both.
That's what I figured.
And that's what I figured too, and so that's kind of why I suggested that maybe we should have a very in-depth conversation about what the intentions of the HRA are, what your goals are, what's your mission, and how does that fit with the ownership of these apartments, and then what do we do about that? And so it's really, this provides us an opportunity to have those discussions. Not that anything's really gonna change, it just gives you the opportunity to fully vet.
And my thought too is, if we did divest, would we have enough time in the next few months to do that before a new contract is needed, or renewal of this contract?
Can I make a comment on the renewal? It renews automatically, but you only have to give a 2-month notice. So it doesn't renew for another 3 years, it doesn't renew for another year. Halfway through next year, all of a sudden you get a buyer and you need to sell it. As long as you give us 2 months notice, which most of the time when it comes to selling something, it takes that amount of time to convert everything over to new ownership and all of that kind of stuff. So it's not that you're signing up for a whole new 3-year contract, a whole new 1-year contract. It just renews and you have to give a 2-month notice. So just so you have some background on that.
Thank you. Board wishes.
I think the difference is, if we still need to explore, other potential contract options that might be, more favorable or more fitting for what we're looking for. And if we don't do that, then we don't have that out unless we divest. So we shrink from 2 options to 1. This gives us both options to explore, and we may end up recontracting with the same contracting company again, which would be fine too. But at least we have a window of opportunity to have these discussions which way we wanna go.
Is that your motion?
It sure could be.
Okay, I'll second that if that's your motion, yeah.
Thank you, David, and thank you, Steve. Yeah, so now my only comment would be then is, so this is kind of a two-part deal. One is the management of the properties, and the other one is how do we explore divesting?
Mhm.
So we'll discuss that after we vote for this.
So this motion is to put out an RFP?
Yeah.
Correct.
Yes.
So if there's any further discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Just
Aye.
for
Oh,
clarification, does the RFP then also provide notice of the intent to terminate the contract, or just the RFP?
Tend to terminate too.
Okay, so that
Start fresh.
incumbent in there, start fresh. I just wanted to clarify.
We passed that, didn't we? Already?
unanimously.
So then, the second thing would be the divesting. How do we explore that?
That discussion could be a closed session if we decide to have that now.
Yeah, and so my suggestion, if I may, Mr. Chair, is that at our next meeting, I think that we should have a little bit broader discussion about mission and really what the new HRA EDA combined powers, what are some of the things that would be your priorities? And then of the things that you're currently doing, how do they fit within those priorities? And then if the determination is that the apartments may or may not, then we'll have a closed door discussion about at probably, you know, at a future time that, how you would go about that process. But I do think it's really important that we take a half a step back and have a conversation a little bit about mission and vision and what you think your priorities are over the next few years, so that we're a little bit more thoughtful about what we do with our remaining assets. And so I'd like to have that discussion next month if that's okay. And in the meantime, I'll try and put together some thought-provoking things to think about as we move for that meeting.
So, Mr. Chair, Mary, if I could ask you and board members, as we think about what we should do that would be best, I would have us ask the question, is this helping people to move forward? Just like Mojave is asking and trying to work with people to get them to that next step. Next month when we have the discussion, is that accomplishing this in the current use?
And I think the conversation is not just about the apartments, but I think it's about, you know, a rehabilitation loan program, and it's about the down payment assistance program and some of the tools that you've historically used. Is there validity in those? Should we be really pursuing some of those things in a much better marketing capacity? And so it's really, you know, about those things, and then how do we make sure that it's helping people move forward, any of those things that we do.
Yeah, to me it gets to, you know, do you prioritize operating housing inventory, or do you prioritize, you know, rehabilitation of housing inventory or creation of new housing inventory? What are you gonna prioritize?
Exactly, because we have limited resources, just
Yeah.
like everybody else, and so I think that it behooves us to really take a step back and say, okay, where is our priority? And then how do we make sure that we have the funding to do that?
Once we build something, you know, operating it, multiple people can operate.
Yeah.
So, all right.
Well, I look forward to more discussion on this. We'll move on then, if there's nothing else. Director's report.
So I have two things that I wanted to bring up for the director's report. The first is something that I included in your packet that is a quick synopsis of the 21st Century Road to Housing Act. So there were a lot of pieces or components to this act that have some intriguing opportunities that I think that we should be sort of mindful of or keeping our eye on. On the first page of the recap that was provided, section 104 talks about a database of publicly owned land. So if an organization receives any small city, or it's called the Small Cities or the Community Development Block Grant Program, those entities are now going to be required to list all publicly owned land within their jurisdiction. My expectation is that there is land that's available that people don't know about and is not being offered up for housing, and so I think that this is a way of highlighting publicly owned lands that may or may not be available for housing. I'm not sure if this particular clause is a good one or a bad thing, but it's just something to be aware of. There's there's several aspects on the second page that are part of Title II, which is Building More in America, that I think have some intrigue for us. The first one is that increasing housing and opportunity zones. I believe, as you recall, we submitted a case that Park Rapids should keep its designation as an opportunity zone. We have not yet heard whether or not that has been designated or not, but if it is, then there looks to be some tools that could help potentially increase the supply of housing by using that tool more effectively, so that could be a really good thing for us. The other thing that we just struggled with a little bit is the second one there is whole home repairs. So there's been an acknowledgement that some of the resources that are available are not necessarily enough to do what's really needed in some of these really challenging homes. And so there looks to be some potential where they'll be able to really holistically address home repairs rather than sort of piecemealing it along, which could be a really good thing. The other thing is under the Small Cities program, the SBDC, or the Small Cities Development Grant Program, new construction of affordable housing is an eligible activity, or will be an eligible activity. So again, that could be a way of helping to hit that value gap that is very difficult, where the cost of construction ends up exceeding the appraised value in certain circumstances. So that might be a tool that we can potentially look at. And then there's also an innovation fund, which provides some highly flexible funding to improve community infrastructure. So again, if there's some smaller communities that might be interested in finding ways to support additional housing, we might be able to leverage this new fund to help with some of those infrastructure costs, which is a tool we haven't had before. So that's another one that's incredibly interesting or intriguing.
Mary,
And-
before you go on,
Sure.
can you go back to 105?
Sure.
I thought the dollar amount there of 100,000 or less was unrealistic. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah.
Day late and a dollar short, right?
Yeah, other than there are so here's what I'm thinking.
Okay.
I'm thinking that there is an unrealistic expectation that tiny homes
Oh, and they don't work here for
are
under
going to
100,000.
work. Yeah, that they're gonna work and that
Okay.
mortgages are gonna be under 100,000.
But they do where it's warm.
Well, and
Yeah.
probably, yeah.
Yeah.
And so I think that really it has to do with the whole aspect of the tiny home
Okay,
concept.
yeah, that makes a difference, okay.
And so, you know, because given this is a nationwide program, and so realistically, I think that there are instances where, with some of the tiny homes, that they could end up being less than that.
Okay, thank you.
And I didn't think about that. The only thing I thought about was, well, somebody's gonna have to have a substantial amount of money already.
Yeah, I know, it didn't seem like it would apply here.
It's
Yeah.
like the person with the $74,000 property, if they sold that, had all that money and then could get another $100,000, something like that. Because I would think if you had that kind of money to begin with, you'd probably qualify for a mortgage. As, you know, if you had 74,000 as a down payment, but then again, you gotta have income and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, so I had the same kind of question, unrealistic $100,000.
Yeah, and I think that it has a lot to do with the tiny home concept in places other than in the northern tier
Yeah.
of this country, yeah.
Thank you.
And then just the last one that I wanted to highlight is section 209, which is accelerating home building. This is sort of intriguing. I have mentioned to some of you about sort of my idea of having a few home designs or few home models that could easily be sort of replicated, where, you know, somebody could say, well, here's these, and that concept here is kind of the same thing, where a city could pre-authorize, or a jurisdiction that controls building codes and building permits could pre-approve certain house packages. And so if a homeowner or a contractor would pick one of the pre-approved housing packages, then the whole approval process is streamlined. So it makes it like this, and you get your approvals and can start construction. So it was just intriguing to me. I don't know that the applicability fits here, but I think that there are a lot of ways to really try and use efficiencies to bring down the cost of construction. So I thought that this was intriguing, that it's really about creating a few home packages that just really can move through the system very quickly, so.
In section 210?
Yes.
Can you think of Hubbard County as a whole? Are there vacant and abandoned buildings that you could think of that, you know, without knowing structurally how they are, that could actually be converted into housing?
Well, I think that there's always an opportunity as you're going around. You know, there's storefronts in some places that are vacant. There are actually some houses, so I think that there's some applicability. It would just really be, we just have to be careful on
Yeah.
that. But yeah, I think that there could be some, you know, if you actually start driving around, you're surprised on how many places appear or are vacant that you might be able to rehab into something different, so.
It's just surprising how fast the home deteriorates when it's not occupied or used in any way, or just a building in general.
Yes.
I can think of several that I know that have sat vacant for a number of years, and they really age fast,
Yes,
really fast.
very fast.
And of course,
you
you get vandalism happening, people breaking windows out, that doesn't help much. But yeah, it is quite amazing.
So, this one isn't in Hubbard County, but it just comes to mind just because I was there yesterday, is the old, Northern Inn, just west of Bemidji. You know, that facility, I couldn't believe how much it's deteriorated, and just, and it's always been kind of cruddy, but the last year, it's really gotten bad. So, you know, if there are opportunities to do that, that would be great if we could take advantage of those in some way. That's all I had about that particular item, unless there's other questions. And then I do have one more item to just bring up quickly. Okay. I just wanted to give you an update. A couple months ago, we talked about you asking to call the question related to the lodging tax so that it could be brought up for public discussion. And it hasn't moved forward, and so I wanted to let you know what has happened, and so just you're aware of what the status is. As I was doing some research, I came across a statute that was passed in 2023 regarding tourism improvement districts. It is a statute that I think was originally really advocated for by the city of Minneapolis post-COVID, wanting to find a way to get resources to market specifically, bringing people in for conventions or conferences kind of thing. Anyway, this particular option provides a way of funding tourism marketing, but then other things as well, including you can use it for economic development, marketing, sales, other services that propose the conferring of benefits located for the businesses in the district. So it really provides a much broader utilization of the funds. It also expands the businesses that would be subject to the service fee. The other thing that is required for this tourism improvement district is it is initiated by a petition of a majority of the businesses that are located within the tourism improvement district. So based on some of the concerns or comments that we've heard regarding the lodging tax being sort of narrow in scope and then narrow in use, this might be an alternative that could still support tourism marketing as well as other tourism related things. And number one, hit more businesses, and as a result, require less from each business because the pool is bigger, so then the percentage would be smaller. We're still trying to do some investigation about whether or not this is a legitimate tool, and whether or not the businesses that would be identified within a tourism improvement district would be in favor of this kind of mechanism. This is a service fee, not a tax. It has as long as it's identified on an invoice, the business can pass the service fee on to its clientele, but it doesn't have to. So it could pay the service fee themselves, or they could pass it on. It would be up to the option of the business. The other thing that is a little bit more challenging is that because this is a service fee, it has to be administered locally. So as part of the petition and that whole process, the county board would have to identify an organization that would administer it, and then they would be responsible for collecting and then paying for the costs associated, or the costs of what was identified as eligible under this. The committee itself would, made up of businesses in this jurisdiction, would sit on a panel, representatives would sit on a committee that would designate how the funds would be spent, and then this administering organization would collect the tax and then pay it based on what the committee says. So we're still in the fairly new investigation stage when it comes to this. But I just wanted to let you know that I didn't forget about what you were talking about before, but we really wanted to vet this as whether or not it's a viable option before we think about the lodging tax exclusively, that this could be something worthwhile, so. If you're interested in doing any more research on your own about what the statute says, it's chapter 428B. Right now, the city of Minneapolis is the only jurisdiction within the state of Minnesota that has initiated this. But given the moratorium on any sort of local option sales taxes or any other taxes, I would expect that other jurisdictions are gonna start taking a look at this as an option to help fund some of their tourism marketing or tourism improvement. Because without a resource, it becomes really difficult to try and spread the word and maintain our numbers, which are continuing to go down in this county, so.
Would this be something then that would be county-wide, or just, I guess that's something we'd probably have to decide in the future.
Defined by ordinance.
Okay.
Yeah, the ordinance would define that. The other thing is that, as you know, the city of Park Rapids already has a lodging tax. This would not replace that. So this could be in addition to the already existing lodging tax that's in place. It would have to, because it is ordinance, it has to be within a geographic boundary. So it would be the Hubbard County or the city of this, or, you know, as long as you can clearly identify where the lines are, so that businesses can readily understand whether or not they're in or out. You can sort of draw the line. But given that we would likely think that this would be a county-wide, we'd probably think it would be a county, you know, that we would enact it as a county.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments on that?
Now I'll ask the same question. Anything else to come before the board? If not, we'll have a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thank
I'll
you.
second.
Thank you, Shar. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you.